Welcome to the 23rd episode of the Nonstop Podcast with Pooja. With me, I am Aiste. Aiste is a very cool personality, probably a very young sportswoman in an adventurous and an adrenal world. So, welcome to the podcast, Aiste.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you for having me here.
So, I think the right introduction for you must be you're someone who's a mix of crazy, intelligence, wit, charisma, and that translates into your work life. So let us a little bit into your life. What do you do? What did you study? And what kind of sports are you interested in?
Okay, maybe we should start that I was born in Lithuania and I lived here until my teenage years. And then when I was 15, my whole family moved to Denmark. So I finished my studies there. I finished even the gymnasium there. And I studied marketing, international sales. But while studying in Denmark, I used to do a lot of like Erasmuses abroad, studies abroad, internships abroad. So I went to Spain twice, I went to Chile, I went to Croatia. I did scuba diving internship there, even though I haven't been scuba diving before. So I kind of learned and then became an instructor there. So it was like all wavy and unexpected route of my career, let's say, even already in the studies. And then I got back to Lithuania, where my parents were already back before me, and they opened this entertainment park, which includes auto, moto activities, and we had these kind of sport rally cars that I started driving, and I spent one summer just like every day sitting in the car trying to practice the driving skills, especially doing the sliding, kind of like drifting in the track. So my main goal was to do drifting in every corner that we had in the track, and the track is kind of big, 24 hectares area, like 12 kilometers lap round. And my father noticed that, so then he suggested me to participate in the racing.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful, and I think someone who has a background as you do, which is quite international, and to have traveled so much, and to still be interested in a sport that is not very popular, if I may say so myself, because it's still not a large, section of people easily choose adrenal sports and then very specifically racing or rally, right? You said your parents had this recreational park and that you also did this as a child and you tried the sport out and then you got addicted to it, right? So what is the difference between rally and what's the difference between racing? Like, how are the cars different, or do you do just car or do you do a bike as well?
Okay, maybe I forgot to mention that basically this whole thing started already from my grandfather, who used to do more kind of like traveling with motorcycles. He was usually the leader of the group, initiating the tours, and back then, it was like 50 years ago, of course there was like no apps, telephones, navigations. They were using basic maps, and they managed to travel from Lithuania to China Wall, actually, also to Mongolia, to, I'm not sure the name in English, but I guess it's Karaim Desert, if it's the same. So he already started doing this 50 years ago, and then this passed on to my father, who started doing also traveling and racing already with motorcycles, then my brother, and of course when I was growing up, I saw everything from the side, and I was telling to my family that I want to ride a motorcycle as well, but they were kind of against that because it's dangerous. That's why I think they kind of pushed me into rally racing, because when you're in the car you have the roll cage, and if you have a crash or something, it's kind of safe, let's say, at least nothing really happens to yourself. So it was actually my family, my father maybe, that pushed me into this. I actually had no inspiration, no idea. It didn't come from myself that I want to be particularly a rally driver. So it was kind of like an idea of my father, which I took, tried, and just fell in love with.
So how long have you been in the rally racing scene?
My first season was actually in 2020. In 2019, I started practicing. That was the time when I finished my studies, when I got back from Denmark to Lithuania. So I was like doing a lot of training in my parents' land in the track that we have. And then already the next year I started my season. So I was racing from like 2020 to 2023, let's say each year, full season. And then I switched to motorcycles because actually when you go from one league to another, it becomes more and more expensive. And when I reached the highest league, I realized that it's too much money probably that I put in. And we decided with my whole family just to sell the car and kind of quit it. And it was kind of sad because I feel like it was my very peak moment where I was like the best at it and I could even improve way more, way faster from that point. But there was like no financial options to continue, So we just sold everything, and then I decided to go to motorcycles. And of course my family was actually against that because it's dangerous. So but I was not the little girl anymore and I could do the decisions on my own, so I didn't listen to them and I just went to get my driver's license for the bike. And while learning or getting the license, I was driving my brother's motorcycle, which was like Enduro, motocross kind of type of bike. And I started liking it even more than the basic street motorcycle, So actually before I even got the license, I already bought my motorcycle, like soft Enduro, kind of like for traveling. It was heavy, it was BMW GS 600, the car version actually. And I imagine myself like traveling around Lithuania with it, kind of, using it for travels. But while getting my license, I kind of started liking more the Enduro motorcycle and motocross motorcycles. So actually I switched and I decided to participate in racing in motorcycles. So I did that for 2 years in Enduro and in motocross. And that's how it happened that I switched. It was cheaper, I could afford it myself. Still, it's kind of expensive sport, but when you compare to cars, we compare it by tires actually. We say if car has 4 tires, and motorcycle has 2, so it's at least double as less financially needed money, for that sport. So I switched. I was there for 2 years. I did kind of great actually. I was champion in my class in Enduro, in the women class. So and that was in 2024 that I gained the champion's name, and in 2025, which was last year, I decided that I want to go back to rally racing again, but I have to start everything from the scratch, because I don't have the car anymore. So what I did, I started saving money from the 2024 season when I finished with motorcycles. I saved some money and I put all of that money into my new car, which is actually not new, it's historic, it's BMW E30. So it's very classic car, and I could go with that car to historic class. So my goal now in 2026 to maybe be back for the full season. It depends on the sponsors and partners, how many I receive, how much sponsorship I can get, and how active I can be in the season. But my goal is to be back in rally because I feel like there I'm more competitive with guys as well. But I just didn't have my chance to prove it. So kind of have the goal to do it.
Well, I think it's super cool, right? Just for me to hear about these things, also having known you per se, so it's also pretty interesting to see that every sport has its ups and downs, and generally when you have an equipment sport, it's quite expensive, and here you have a whole vehicle, so it's just I cannot imagine the kind of cost that goes into it. I just want to understand a little more for those who are listening to it and want to pick up rally or racing in general. So what is the real difference between a rally car and a regular car, and a bike and a motorbike and a rally bike?
Okay. Yeah, actually there are many differences. Okay, but let's say if we're gonna compare just basic car to a rally car, because I decided to participate in rally racing, but there are many different kind of disciplines of autosport, like drifting, rallycross, autocross, circuit racing, and each discipline has different adjustments for the car needed, to be at the best car's potential for that kind of discipline. So rally basically what it needs, as all disciplines, need roll cage. That's the first thing to have the car safe, in case it crashes, if you have rollovers or something, so it doesn't bend, it doesn't hurt you, the driver and the co-driver. But maybe it's more about the discipline as well, that in rally we're not going alone, we're going with a co-driver, so it's always two people sitting in the car, it's a teamwork. So you have to keep that in mind, that you're also are responsible for the other person as well. But if we continue talking about the car specifications, it's just for rally, especially in Lithuania, because we usually go on gravel, we need the car itself to be lifted as much as possible. Because let's say if you were participating on asphalt rallies, you would need it I wouldn't say as low as possible, but you would still do it lower because you have better speed than, let's say. But when it comes to gravel, if you're 100 something car going, after already many cars that went, the condition of the road becomes better with each run. And if you're going somewhere last, you get really terrible conditions of the road. So if the car is more lifted, then you kind of can avoid it more, damaging your car and breaking something from the bottom. So I would say maybe this is the main thing when it comes to rally, but of course then special tires for gravel. Sometimes we have asphalt stages as well, tarmac stages. Then we have to switch tires. Sometimes we are not allowed to switch. Sometimes we have to go with gravel tires on tarmac, which becomes way more slippery. I don't know, I would just say probably it's just lifting the car, and the rest is just as for all sport cars, safety packages and stuff, sport seats, sport steering wheel.
Is it right to imagine, at this point I'm sure we'll have a picture on the difference between rally car and the real car as we speak, but is it right to imagine that it's similar to a monster truck? Because that's a very popular sport now. Everyone wants to try out monster truck in their leisure time. Is it very similar to this?
No, not at all. Because I would say the monster truck is the kind of slow vehicle, while rally car is the fast one, And then even though I was saying that rally car is kind of lifted, when you compare to other disciplines of autosport, when you compare to monster truck, rally car becomes very low, and then it goes much faster than the monster truck itself. So there are many differences. A monster truck, I would say, is more for off-road maybe riding as well. It depends what exactly you use it for. Actually, I myself haven't really even heard much about monster truck sport way, because in our family park we have a monster truck that you can ride as a leisure ride, So you don't go fast and you just go for fun kinda. But I guess in America, in the US, where they do no salto and tricks with it, then you call it sport, and it's also different kind of world. So but just comparing rally car and monster truck, many differences. Faster, slower, bigger, smaller,
Yeah, crazy. And what is the speed range that you would say that you do in rally racing versus regular racing? And how many laps?
In rally, that's the thing. We are not going in a circuit, so we don't have a track, we don't have laps. We have a stage, so it could be from 2 kilometers to 28 kilometers stage. So we don't count laps. Our goal is just to reach the finish line as fast as possible with at least as many mistakes. So we get the best possible time, and that's the thing. We are not even racing against each other at the same time. We are not a few cars going. We are only one car at that minute that goes off in the stage, and they just check your time in which you made that stage, So we don't have laps, and now I just kind of forgot the question. What was it exactly?
No, I wanted to ask, what's the speed limits?
Speed limits.
Yeah.
So it also depends in cars and also class that you're going. Because, for example, usually I race with BMW, which is rear wheel driven cars. And in turns, we're actually slower because it provokes more sliding in the turns. So I would say the fastest speed with the car I used to go, BMW, was 180 above and that's the maximum that the car can get, you know. So it depends on the stage. If you have a longer distance straight, which is, let's say, 500 meters, we would reach that 180 kilometers per hour. And it depends on the turns, you know. When we have very fast turns, then you can keep that speed in those fast turns as well, you know. But I would say it's just maximum 180 with rally car.
Okay. Yeah, it's crazy. So
BMW. Of course, when they drive these different kinds, like, you know, from manufacturers rally cars, they are even faster, but not that much, I would say. Probably 200 plus minus.
Okay, and if you have to compare an F1 race or a MotoGP race, do you know like what's the speed limits that the drivers are generally at? You know, if it's a circuit?
Yeah, I don't actually. I don't, because actually I have experience more just from the rally racing, especially with BMW and on gravel.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like kind of 200. But I don't think that in other disciplines it's that much faster.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it is. Of course, Formula is a different kind of world, but yeah, in many different other disciplines, I think it's like around 160, 180, 200 plus.
Yeah. So there is this common myth, right, in F1 that the drivers weigh themselves before race and they weigh themselves after race, and it's significant. Do you have such similar experiences, or is it completely different again?
What exactly you mean?
They weigh themselves before a race because they drop a few kilos, and they weigh themselves after a race.
Okay. No, I don't do that actually, because in general in rally racing in Lithuania, I'm usually the only girl driver. So yeah, and I'm kind of small and I don't weigh as much. So actually I already win in that scenario. And usually my co-drivers are actually also younger guys, which also don't weigh that much. So yeah, we don't do that. But I think it's also because in Formula, you know, they do that because they know that all formulas, they weigh the same. So then each driver's weight will add, like, you know, the more he weighs, the more it will add to the general, you know, weight. But when it comes to rally cars, you know, we go with different cars, so it's already in the cars that the weight is different. So yeah, it will be just not that kind of big of difference if you just like weight yourself, you know, and if you try to adjust something. Also depends, like, you know, on co-driver, and sometimes people, you know, they don't choose it's not the first priority. You would choose like your co-driver. Let's say you would choose the co-driver that will read the pace notes, you know, on time and would be good at it, rather than, you know, to pick someone who weights less and, you know, reads worse. So after all, in the end, you get better results with someone who's just good at it, you know, not the one that weighs less.
Yeah, smart. And I was just very curious, like, what's like the top rally car company, or is it like general automotive companies that do have the capacity to make a rally car?
It's also kind of a broad question, I would say, because when it comes to World Rally Championship, let's say, there are three main manufacturers: Hyundai, Toyota, and Ford. In Lithuania, we have these brands as well, but we don't have the WRC type of cars, you know, which are extremely expensive and made just for rally, you know. So yeah, we have different types, you know, and usually in Lithuania people just choose any car they want, and you can always adjust it for the discipline you need, you know. As I mentioned, basically you just get, like, you know, the surroundings of the car and you change everything inside of it. So yeah, it doesn't matter. All mark brands,
all the makes
basically
are fine.
Yeah.
So and also in terms of competition, how does it work? Are you recognized by, for example, world championships? Do you have world championships in rally? Is it an Olympic sport? So where is rally really in the world of sports?
It's a niche sport, I would say, you know. So yeah, World Rally Championship. Yeah, World Rally fans, they watch it. For example, I myself, even though I participate in rally in Lithuania, I'm not that kind of big of fan to watch each stage of World Rally Championship, what happens there and stuff, you know. I follow on Instagram, I see some videos, but it's not something that I carefully watch, and I try not to miss, like, you know, any episode. It's still niche kind of thing, so
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, and what's your next on your list of competitions?
Yeah, so my goal is to participate in the whole season in rally next year in Lithuania. So it's gonna start in May and end in October. So we have like these rally events all around Lithuania in different cities. I should have 6 events in that championship. I might go to some maybe lower leagues, a few rallies as for training before the big events, But yeah, in general, max 10 rallies in the season.
And you also participate both in the bike and the car category, right? Or you just
no, this year I'm just gonna stay in rally with cars.
Okay.
Because I was like racing with motorcycles only for 2 years, and I finished in the end of 2024. And since then, actually, I think I sat on the motorcycle only once. I love it. I would do it more often, but I just sold everything as well just in order to buy my rally car now. But yeah, I would love to actually get back to motorcycles, not for racing because it's really dangerous. I'm not, getting any younger anymore, so I think it's also getting more risky for me as well. But I would love to still go like on some enduro trips abroad, just like for fun, to do the kind of easier enduro riding in mountains or something, just to do it for fun, but not to go back to racing. So. Yeah.
And what was the craziest thing that you've ever done in terms of rally? Any competitions, anything that you remember, anywhere that you raced outside Lithuania?
Yeah, I don't know what are the dumb things when it comes to rally. If people probably would say it's a dumb thing whenever you crash, but it depends what's the reason of that crash, Was it because the co-driver didn't read the turn properly, or was it because you were he read properly the turn, but you chose the wrong speed, you came too fast and you made a mistake. So, basically all mistakes in rally, they're just like based on something. There's always someone's fault, and usually either the driver or the co-driver. So yeah, I don't know. I would say dumb, but it's a normal thing, It's practice. Even like very good drivers, they still have these crashes, It just happens. They just thought they could make it faster, but they couldn't, So I would say that the dumb thing is probably should be not even crashes. It's just like, I don't know, maybe for the co-driver to calculate the wrong time and the crew has to arrive to the stage, That would be dumb. And just like, in this way to get way worse result after all. By calculating and not actually racing. And I don't know, I cannot remember my very dumb actions in rally. Of course I had crashes, but I think it's normal. But I remember my first rally, I was not experienced, of course, because it was my first rally, and I remember my co-driver was also not kind of experienced, but she still had some rallies from before, and I was trusting her as like, as she is good. And funny thing was that we had this racing in Lithuania, and we were going to one stage because while we are going in the stage, when the co-driver reads the pace notes, we do the same in order just to get to the stage. The co-driver reads where we have to go, by symbols, signs of the road and stuff like that. And it was funny that we were like going towards the stage, and we ran into a forest, and then I see weird signs that are like road signs that are in yellow and black colors, which we don't have in Lithuania, And I was like, I just thought, okay, that's weird. Like, I don't know, I haven't seen this kind of sign, but we kept on going. And then we entered this small town where I also noticed that the sign of entering the town was also not familiar to me. And then I looked to the side, and I saw there was a store, and the store was full of like posters, in Polish language. And I was like, wait, what the fuck, we're in Poland. I was not supposed to swear here, but yeah. So then we realized, and the competition we knew for sure was happening in Lithuania. So we realized that we are on the wrong path,
Yeah.
So I think that's something really dumb, but it's still funny, and it was in my first rally, and that was my co-driver's mistake, So it's always fun to remember, and it's just like fun stories. From this.
2 of the last questions that I have to ask you. So one question is, who is like your, inspiration in the rally world? Do you have an inspiration, especially there are not a lot of women doing it, and also like adults almost in the category? And where is that one exotic destination you would like to rally?
Oh, okay. I don't know if I really have the inspiration from rally. All cool drivers, they are inspiring, But yeah, maybe since I'm a woman and there used to be this racing woman as well, Michelle Mouton, she was French. And she was really cool because she was participating with Audi Quattro and she was beating guys. And I do the same in Lithuania, you know, so I kind of feel like, I don't know if I can say it's my inspiration, but yeah, she was like, you know, worldwide known. So I would say she's the inspiration in the ways that she's more known around the world, let's say. And yeah, she's really cool. So yeah, if I have to think of someone just to mention, she would be the one. And I just like, even maybe not even the style of driving, because she was cool. As I say, many drivers are cool, they're good at driving, you know. But I think her character was like also cool. Like whenever someone would ask her before the start how she feels, she would just respond, I don't feel at all. While someone asks guys how do they feel, and they say, well, yeah, kind of, you know, worrying, thinking how to, you know, do things, and she just says, I don't feel at all, you know. And she really didn't. And I kind of feel the same when I race, you know. I don't have the fear to race, I have the excitement to race, you know. So I think, yeah. And when it comes to destinations where I would like to race, I don't know. Of course, it would be nice to race somewhere abroad. I know there's this nice rally event in Portuguese islands, Azores. It just looks very beautiful from the pictures, but I can imagine it's super complicated to participate there because you go on these cliffs, you know. If you make a mistake there, you know, you might just end up in the ocean, you know. With, I don't know, you might even die, you know. So yeah, it looks nice from the pictures, but it's probably very dangerous, but still would be kind of life experience to participate in such kind of event.
Yeah, thank you. And I always end the podcast by asking our guests the final question of what's their favorite movie and what's the one book that changed them or inspired them. Okay. So do you have anything like that?
Okay, when it comes to movies, actually I don't watch that many. Or of course I've watched some and there are good movies, but whenever someone asks me this question, I cannot remember what that good movie is, you know. So I don't have the answer here. But when it comes to books, actually I'm really big fan of Robin Sharma. I love all of his books, and yeah, I wouldn't even say any specific one because I think all of his books are kind of similar, you know, when it comes to mindset and yeah. So I would say just all of his books.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Aiste. It has been an absolute pleasure getting to know you better and getting to learn about the world of rally and racing. And as the personality you are, you have a lot of adrenaline and adventure, and that was very obvious with the way that our conversation went. And I hope this podcast brings you sponsorship, it brings you more racing this year and this season, and I wish you the very best. And I hope a lot more people pick up racing and rally in a more careful and curated manner.
Thank you, Pooja. Thank you for having me here. It was a pleasure to have this talk with you.